Turn 6, and we're starting to see some damage and some the battlefield kind of unfold. We're going into turn 6, that is. Here's what's going on. I'm going to zoom out. I hope this gives you kind of a good shot of the battlefield. You see the Germans have all swung around here and are clustering on this southern road and starting to make a push up into the city. Some activity here we'll come back and talk about, but the Russians are coming down this road and getting ready to face off here with the Germans. They've also swung a couple tanks around far in the north that are going to start digging in here into the city. And then here's their troop transport with all of their infantry units. Let's come on in on these guys. Whoops, this direction, I think. This thing's a mess. They came into this unit. I thought they were kind of protected up here. Turns out that last turn, a couple of these tanks, that old Stug 3, and then one of these Panthers, they were able to enact what's called general purpose fire. They're not firing, it's not armor penetrating fire against a tank, but it's general purpose against a vehicle. And since this guy had no protection, one of them blew up right away. Because it brewed up, every friendly unit in that square becomes suppressed, which means that they're kind of head down. They're like a morale shaken state. They can only move at half speed. So what I did in their turn is I disembarked all of the units so that next turn, if these guys are kind of sitting ducks, they're going to get fired on again because while they're suppressed, they can only move 2 squares. So no matter where they go, any number of these guys are going to be able to just unload on them next turn. So in an attempt to do some amount of damage control, the troops at least have dismounted and they're going to try and move separately. And if nothing else, the Germans don't get a 2-for-1. They're going to have to start firing on things separately. So those guys are looking at a problem. Let me take off. These overwatches didn't go off. One thing, this is the first time I've been playing with this, and it works really effectively. See these smoke clouds? This is smoke. And these provide you, they don't block line of sight, but they give you a -3 factor on that cover, on that combat resolution chart that I showed you. So remember, if you're in light cover, that's a -2. If you're moving, that's a -2. The smoke, if the shot of fire passes through, that's a -3 right there. So that's significant. These older Panzers, well, I guess these aren't that old. I should take that back. But these utility tanks, the Panzer IV, where are we at? Here we go. We're going to focus in on that. These 4H Panzers, they can fire smoke rounds, and they've been rolling for it. You have to roll for it to see if it's available. They've primarily been getting good rolls and able to roll for it, and they've done a couple things. When they moved around and this open plain was kind of exposing their flank to, at the time there was a ton of German tanks up here, or Russian tanks up here that could fire. They were able to play a game of leapfrog by popping some smoke. Some units would stay behind, fire some smoke, while the other guys would move past it, and then these guys would smoke and let their friends come. And that's gone on up here too. These Russians coming down the hill, they haven't been able to fire effectively because everything that they can shoot at is either clipping this hill, which blocks line of sight, or it comes through that smoke, which gives that -3 modifier. So that's been working out pretty slick for the Germans, and we'll see what happens. The one thing I'm nervous about the way I'm playing this game, this is the problem with playing solo, is I just don't think that the game or history is meant to have these point blank tank on tank battles, and that feels like that's how things always turn out. So I have this lurking suspicion I'm not really tactically playing things correctly, because I just don't believe that that's how it goes down. Guys get right in their face and shoot each other apart. I mean, I just don't think that's how tank warfare works, but what do I know? Anyhow, remember down here we were talking about some delaying actions. The Germans started off the game, they were going to hook around here, and the Russians had to send someone down to contend with that. Well, it turned out to be a little bit of a game of rabbit. The Russians have 3 T-34s down here in the woods that have committed to sort of protecting that flank. But what the Germans ended up doing is kind of just hooking around and getting on this road and sort of ignoring that. And they're coming up into this direction. These are 3 Panthers that are going to come up and support the battle. 2 of the Panthers came up on the hill to try and get some devastation fire down into the valley. And they did. They blew up one of the T-34s in the wood, knocked him out. But there were 2 of them up on this ridge line. Between this Su-85 and then this damaged Su-100, they blew them apart. I mean, these tank hunters are no joke. If they get off a shot and it hits, it's just melting these tanks. I mean, it's crazy. One of the Su-100 tank hunters was blown up, brewed up, so that's gone. The other one is damaged, so it's kind of limping along, but it does have such effective range that if you can just keep it in a position where it can get shots, which is how I think tank warfare was meant to be fought, it's going to be able to do some damage. None of these other vehicles don't block line of sight, so you can be firing right past your guys. Each hex here is meant to represent 100 meters. So you can imagine, you've got 100 meters here, you've got plenty of room to fire through and pass. That's what's going on. Anyhow, so we're moving into turn 6, and things are heating up. This next turn, there's going to be some, I don't know, maybe there's one more turn of moving here, but we're looking at some dire consequences because the firefight's just going to go off. And then, as I said, these ground units here are in a boatload of trouble because this general purpose fire seems to be hugely effective. It's just, I think what it's meant to represent is the tank shell doesn't have to penetrate any armor. It just has to get close to one of these trucks, and the concussive damage just blows it apart. I don't know. That's a guess. All right. More to follow. I'll get you posted here in another, I don't know, 3, 4, or 5 rounds, something like that. Talk to you soon.